Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Debt collectors get a taste of their own medicine. I have a gym membership that I was officially signed up for under false pretenses. The sales guy pitched me an offer of a 2-week free trial but signed me up for a full membership. He used fake bank account information, so I only found out about all of this when they called me 3 months later, telling me I owe them 3 months of unpaid membership fees. I went in to discuss the matter with the gym management personally and they were very hostile. When I told them to just cancel it, they insisted that I have a 1 month time period to cancel, and since it's been 3 months, I will have to pay 50% of the 24 months contract in order to cancel. I was furious. I did the little digging and discovered that this is a running scam they operate. They sign potential customers up to a free trial, then fraudulently attach it along with your signature to a full 24 months contract with fake banking details. Since your true banking account won't be debited, you won't know until 3 months later when it's too late to cancel without paying the 50% canceling clause. When you insist that you were signed up for a free trial, they gaslight you and use an insistent prompt-beating tactic to get you to see no way out. This is a prevalent scam in my country, and with a little research I discovered that because of gyms scamming the public this way, laws were passed that exempt the public from having their credit affected in any way for non-payment of gym membership fees, and no legal action can be taken by any gym against any member for unpaid membership fees. However, while I was protected by law from my credit card record being tarnished and from any legal action, I am not protected against harassment. The gyms hired debt collection companies to basically harass non-paying members with letters, emails, phone calls, text messages, and so-called agents who visit your workplace and your home. I returned to the gym and revealed my findings. They told me that I will either pay them or be handed over to their legal department and taken to court for double the contractually agreed amount and have my credit record destroyed. I smugly revealed that I am well aware of the law and that they have no power or authority to take any kind of action against any member. They doubled down on their insistent hardball tactic. I simply laughed and told the management lady that I already found 6 members who were scammed and have informed them of what I know, and I intend to educate as many members as I can about their rights. Then I called her a barking rabbit with no power at all. I was swiftly escorted out. The next few weeks the harassment tripled in intensity. I got a few letters in the mail weekly, about 10 emails daily from changing accounts, about 10 texts daily from multiple changing numbers, between 20 to 30 calls daily, and a few times a week their obnoxious agents would harass me at my house or my workplace. They had the same hostile, threatening hardball tactic, obviously meant to stress you out and pester you so much that you would just pay them in order to get some peace. The calls were the worst. They would find out personal information about your personal life and use it to get under your skin. After a while I was exhausted. I realized that I was anxious about going outside. I would get a jolt of anxiety when the phone rang or when I had a knock on my door. This had to stop. I considered changing my number and email, but then I thought about my situation logically. I realized that they can harass me but nothing more. They can only affect my mental well-being if I take them seriously. What is there to fear? They are barking rabbits. Toothless, clawless pit bulls. I did some pickup artistry in my earlier bartending days. There is a tactic used by pickup artists called agree and amplify, where you take nothing a person says seriously. and amplify their insults to the ridiculous. It is a good technique to use to lighten the mood, especially if someone is being hostile towards you, since it disarms the attacker. The next day when I received my first call, I answered and discussed with the hostile woman about all the different soups there are and different recipes for soup. The more she would try to anger me or insult me or change the subject, I would suggest different soups. I would calm her down and ask her what soups her children and family likes. After a while of this, she was mentally exhausted. I could tell she had enough. I continued to discuss with her the virtues of soup, but she remained quiet for maybe 40 seconds or so. She was still there since I heard her heavy breathing. She was pissed, so I hung up instead. I assumed that since she's calling from a call center, she's not allowed to hang up, so she stayed silent and waited for me to hang up instead. Victory! When the agents harassed me at work, I employed a similar tactic. They would often dress in a very formal, professional manner to give us a false demeanor of importance, and when they talked, they used legal terminology, obviously a scare tactic, that alluded to corporate legal strong-arming. I simply met them outside and offered a tour of the premises. When they declined and insisted that I talk to them seriously, I told them to follow me to my office, to which I led them to the toilet. They did not like that, so I took them to the rec room and offered them drinks. They asked for coffee and I gave them tap water in paper cups. When they started talking, I would simply walk off to another area and talk nonsense. They left after a while, leaving an envelope I threw in the trash. They tried harassing me at my home. When I opened the door to two guys, I told them that I was waiting for them, and I started directing them how I wanted my front yard landscaped. When they got serious, I mentioned how I want the sides trimmed and how the weeds needed to be plucked by hand. One moment, one of the guys got heated and got in my face and said a few nasty things to taunt me. I simply told him that his emotional state reminds me of a stump that I've been wanting to have removed for years. How much extra would they charge me to remove it? This guy lost it and called me very nasty names while walking away and chucking an envelope at my feet. I simply shouted back at him, "Thank you for the quote," as I picked up the envelope to chuck in my trash. I went on informing friends and acquaintances as much as I could who had a membership at the gym about the scam and my tactics. Some saw it as too much effort, but others assisted. One delivery driver got his entire team of 13 to quit the gym and employ my tactics. This went on for a few weeks. I started getting very creative with my harassment countermeasures. There are so many beautiful topics, my favorite of which was preposterous political views like discussing how Hitler was in fact a good guy or how Nelson Mandela was an evil dictator. Also, I loved ridiculous conspiracies like how all music since 1995 are computer-generated and humans are in fact controlled by parasites called brains. I knew I was getting to them. After a few weeks, they stopped calling and the agents stopped visiting. Only the texts and emails persisted. I downloaded software to filter the texts and emails as best as I can, and it worked well enough that I decided to keep my number and email accounts and just delete them in patches separated by the software. After a few months, I have not heard from them and noticed that there were no more letters and no more batches of emails or texts to delete. Feeling superior, I visited the gym to speak to the manager but was refused entry when they heard who I was. I was told that my membership was cancelled months ago. They tried to contact me to move forward with the cancellation and waive the 50% clause, but I was impossible to contact and letters went unanswered. Turns out they stopped their antics after too many members came forward insisting on cancelling the contracts. I spoke to the staff member at Linz, an okay guy. He told me that this happens every now and then, and all the gym does is lay low for about 6 months and start off the scamming and harassing again. Apparently this tactic brings in a lot of money and the gym will close down otherwise. I just shook my head. I actually miss annoying them and getting under their skin. I still chuckle thinking of it. Next story. Accuse me of stealing? You will lose everything. First post, be kind. This happened way back in the dark ages, 1986. I was 21 at the time and working for a gas station that was associated with a certain grocery store chain in Washington state. It was owned by a company not affiliated with said chain, but had locations at nearly everyone. As this was long before the days of debit cards, this was a cash-only gas station. We did not even take credit cards. Customers would pull up, pump their gas and then come to my window to pay. We also sold cigarettes. No drinks, no snacks. Customers couldn't even get into my booth. I had been working there about a year when the company announced it was closing the location. My manager and I were offered positions at another location upstate, and we both accepted. We moved our respective families and started our new jobs as new hires. This station was incredibly busy. We did more business in 8 hours than my old location would do in a week. This location also had a different setup. Here you would pull into the station from a single entrance, pump your gas and then drive forward to a single exit where the pay here booth was located. There were always 2 cashiers on duty. Each cashier had a cash drawer. One thing I should note, there were also no computers. So closing the drawer down between shifts was time-consuming and tedious. We had to manually count the cigarettes remaining and count the cash drawers. We would fill out an end-of-shift report listing the starting balances and the ending balances. We also had to list the gallons sold from each pump. At the end of the shift, the total of gallons sold and the total cigarettes sold should equal the cash balance. It is important to note here that not once in the year I had worked for the previous location had I been off by more than 10 cents. The following morning after my first shift, I was informed by the manager that I was short $50. Impossible, I said. I balanced out yesterday. He said that I must have stolen that money after I had completed the paperwork. I just looked at him and said, no, I didn't. He gave me a verbal warning and said if it happened again, I will be fired, and the stolen money will be deducted from my paycheck this week. In the 5 days that followed, I realized quickly the manager was up to something. My old manager, who was just another worker now, was also accused of stealing, as was one other new employee. I cannot vouch for the other employee, but I'm pretty sure he did nothing wrong. The employees that have been there a while were never accused of anything. I did some checking and found out this manager was relatively new, had only been there about 6 months, and the other cashiers had been there before him. Only new cashiers were being accused of stealing. And that location had been having stealing problems for about 6 months, and the turnover was high with the new employees. I came to work at 6 a.m. on a Monday, only to be told I was being fired. The manager accused me of taking $500 out of my drawer the previous Friday. He said he only discovered it this morning, even though he had worked Saturday and Sunday. I said okay and I left. I was pretty angry, and instead of going home, I parked in a grocery store parking lot and proceeded to settle in to watch the gas station. I knew that at 9 a.m. sharp, he would take the cash in the safe and make the weekend deposit. At 9 a.m., he left the gas station and headed to the bank. But instead of walking into the bank, he walked into the Indian casino next door. It is not really a casino like we think of today, but more of a betting parlor for the races. It did have slot machines, but no card tables. I think, well, this is interesting. He comes out of the casino at exactly 10 a.m., walks next door to the bank, does his business, and then heads back to the gas station. And I head home with a plan. Every morning I follow him from the gas station to the casino. I take a picture of him leaving, and one of him arriving at the bank and walking into the casino. I take pictures of him coming out and then heading back to the bank. I do this for 5 days straight. Even went on Saturday. On day 3, my old manager was fired for stealing $150. I get the film developed. No digital camera in the dark ages. Note the times and dates on the back of each one. Then I call the main office of the gas station. It is after 5, but I'm hoping someone is there. And there is. I speak to a woman and explain my situation, and she says she knows exactly who I should speak to and transfer me. By some grace of God, she has transferred me to none other than the president/CEO of the company. I tell him my story and tell him I did not steal from his company, and could prove who actually did. He took down my information and said he would be in touch. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. The next morning I went to the station to perform my usual observation of the manager. At 9 a.m. he leaves for the bank, at 10 a.m. he comes out. At that moment, two stern-looking gentlemen approach him. One pulls out his wallet and shows him something, and the other one is talking. The manager goes pale and takes a step back. Next thing I know, he is being escorted to a car I hadn't noticed and they drive off. I lose them at a traffic signal, so I head back to the station. They all show back up about 5 minutes later. And a few minutes after that, a police cruiser pulls in. The officer talks to the stern gentleman and proceeds to place the manager in handcuffs. The other man says nothing but is glaring daggers at the manager. The president called me later that afternoon and informed me that the manager had been arrested for embezzlement. Turns out that in 6 months he had managed to steal about $5,000. He would take the store cash into the casino and gamble with it. If he won, he would make the normal bank deposit. If he lost, he would make the deposit and note in his records that we had been short the previous day. The CEO had already been focusing on that location because of the stealing and high turnover rate, but my information helped them figure out what exactly had been going on. I was thanked and sent a substantial check as a reward. My old manager was offered the manager's job, and I was offered my old job back. I declined as I had already found another job that I liked more and paid better. The gambling manager was sentenced to 1 year in jail and ordered to attend counseling for his gambling addiction. His wife divorced him and took their 3 children to California. His house was foreclosed on and he ended up in a homeless shelter. Do not accuse me of stealing. I will get revenge. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.